Introducing the SonaFlex PC Setup Utility version 2.0. This is the new setup utility for SonaFlex. It's compatible with SF16M firmware version 1.5, and instead of going through every detail of this software in this video, I'm going to cover just the main differences in this version and highlight the new features of the SonaFlex version 1.5. First of all, there's a PC version and a Mac version. I'll be showing you the Mac version. Similar to the previous version, there are 3 ways to load a configuration into the utility: by serial connection, by Ethernet, and by loading a file from a USB drive or a hard drive. One major difference here is that the version executes each setting live when connected via serial or Ethernet. Great for instant feedback on DSP settings. There are 2 modes, basic and advanced. Basic mode gives you basic DSP, like bass and treble, and advanced mode allows full use of all 7 DSP filters. But the mode setting is closely associated to zones. That's one of the main features in the new version. Zones are useful in cases where a third-party controller is not required, and the users will be operating the system from the front panel of the SF16M. You've got to be in basic mode to use zones, and when you're using zones, you can't control the outputs individually. Notice the Output Setup tab. This is where you can assign each output to a zone. When you're in basic mode, all advanced features are grayed out. You can still adjust mono and stereo and things like that. In the Zone Setup tab, you can name the zones you plan to use and adjust things like turn on volume, loudness, etc. Notice that Groups is still a feature. Groups are not the same thing as zones. You can put several zones into a group, and your groups can overlap each other, whereas zones don't overlap. In advanced mode, you have control over individual speaker outputs instead of zones. And another thing you can do in advanced mode is use the advanced Dsp filters. You'll notice the first 4 filters are set up in high shelf and low shelf configurations. This is where bass and treble are calculated. If you want to preserve the ability to use bass and treble, leave these filters selected. You can use the last 3 filters for other things like low pass, high pass, or parametric EQ. At the bottom we have a graph that represents the result of all the filters shown. When we change the gain in any of the filters, you see the resulting image here. Again, the changes you make are live, so you can hear the results right away as well. So that's an overview of the new SonaFlex features you can use in the PC Setup Utility.